Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 28th day of September 2023. Well, today's oracle card is River from the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. I always want to call it the Wild and Sacred Oracle deck, but it's Sacred Feminine deck. So we see River, we see the woman in the just swimming along there, just floating along with the fish in the river here. And it's about surrendering to the flow or surrendering to the moment. It's a very powerful thing to do, to stay in the flow of your own higher awareness and not become distracted by what's going on around you. I mean, if you truly need to, that's one thing, but all too often we get involved in stuff we probably shouldn't or don't need to. So we could just stay in our own happy place, basically, our own higher awareness, and just keep moving on. Dropping resistance to whatever could be going on around you, and just realizing this is really not for me. I need to just go and not respond to what's going on. I think it's a really powerful thing to do, and to understand that's an option. So often we think we have to respond to somebody. We don't. I find that it's much more powerful if someone says something to me in an email or whatever, and I don't happen to agree with it. I don't need to tell them that. I can just not respond to it and let them wonder. And so it's a more powerful moment where you're keeping your own counsel, basically, and not necessarily sharing that with other people. Today's numerology for the day with 28, 2 and 8 adds up to 10. 10 reduces to 1. So we have new beginnings. And you'll see from the cards, I think the cards are describing that same idea here of new beginnings. But let's take it, and I think the runes are too. Let's take a look, though, at the first rune from the Elder Futhark, the above side of things. We have Kenaz. Kenaz is the 6th rune from the Elder Futhark, and we can use that as its numerology today, so keep that in mind, 6. Kenaz is the torch. It's awakening, it's alignment, it's healing, well-being, love, transformation, illumination, awakening. I think I said awakening already. But it's the light of spirit, the light of our own spirit, coming in and invoking that presence around us. In our interactions, all of it. And again, it aligns really well, I think, with today's oracle card, in that you're dropping resistance to who you truly are as a soul, infused into the body for a short period of time, realistically compared to eternity, right? But this is the expression, the soul expression outward into form. As opposed to ego. And then on the below side of things, we have Fortuna Minor. This is a Geomancy rune. Geomancy has essentially deals with 8 different concepts, and you see both sides of each concept. So instead of 8 runes, you have 16. So this is progressive success. It's lesser fortune. Its complement, or the other side of that concept, would be Fortuna Major, which is greater fortune. So in a sense, it'd be the success at the end of something, at the end of a particular process. This is the process involved, the steps you take, how you get there, and how successful you are meeting the challenges along the way. Whether or not you can do that on your own, or whether you need to seek out someone else for advice. Fortuna Minor incorporates that idea of reaching out for outside assistance. Now, whether that's, again, some type of advisor, someone with more experience, maybe a legal advisor of some kind, a parent who's had, or a relative that has had a similar experience and can advise you, maybe. Or it could mean even drawing other people in to help you along the way and collaborate with those people to get you to where you need to go. So it could be, if you're a business owner or you're starting a new business or something, it could be the people you hire. So again, outside assistance, that you then see the need to have, essentially, with Kenaz here. Not letting your ego get in the way and thinking, well, I know I have all the answers, I know what to do. Even people that do have all the answers, basically, they get there because they've had help. They get there because they've taken the time, they've dropped their ego, they've dropped resistance, and they've seen and that there's a value in asking questions of other people, of how did you get there, what kinds of experiences did you have, what can you say to me that can, the one thing that you think is the most important thing I need to know, even if you don't have a specific question, even if you do, letting them give to you in a way that gives back, because they've probably had the same experience where they've asked for help along the way. So they've had their success and now they're giving back to you. So having the clarity to know that that's okay to do, to get there, you're not going to get there alone. In other words, there's going to be other people involved. Even if you're the one basically doing all the work, there's other people involved somewhere, somehow in that process. And having the clarity and wisdom to know that. Going on to the cards here, we have the Ace of Pentacles. I mean, if this is not a new path forming, I don't know what is. You see the path going by the lilies. The white lilies means, and I know they look funny, but that's in fact what they are. If my lilies looked that scraggly, I would be very upset. But anyway. But mine are black lilies. I found some black lilies that I have, and they didn't do too well this year because the lilac sort of overtook the area, and I'm going to have to cut that back this winter so that it doesn't do that in the spring. So my lilies actually come up, but they're gorgeous. They're a black lily. They're so deep red that they're black, and they're just cool. But anyway, you see this path is going alongside. On both sides here, you have lilies growing. You see the hedgerow here, and it forms an archway as well. You see some mountains in the distance. So a new path is forming that's going to likely yield some material security or material success here. Pentacles is the earth element, and that's what the earth element deals with. I mean, really, realistically, everything about your physicality and form, the earth element deals with. But Pentacles is about your finances, your success, education, your family, your tradition, legacy. It can be about grounding. It can be about healing. It can be all kinds of things, really. So, I mean, the success that you're seeing here, the new path, the new opportunity for that, really could involve just about anything. So, and I'm going to keep it that general because I don't want to assume, because anybody watching here, you could have 10 people watching with this resonates 10 different ways. So we'll just keep it, nice and general here. But again, with the ace, it has a numerology of 1. So again, likens to the same numerology for the day today of something new on the horizon, a new path opening, new beginnings of some kind. And as you proceed on, we have the Knight of Wands. First of 2 Wands cards here. So we have a little bit of run on Wands. So motivation, initiation, creativity, new opportunities. And again, the new path is opening to some new opportunity for you. Now, as with Kenaz being a higher awareness rune, there's an element of that here with the Knight of Wands. And we know that because we see the 3 pyramids over here. The pyramids indicate the Holy Land, and so you're going to be thinking spirituality. So if you're going to relate that to Kenaz, then you awaken to the fact that on this new quest, on this new path, as I embark on this new opportunity, that I need to keep my awareness lofty. I need to keep my awareness high, and I need to drop the ego so that I can pursue this in a way where I can take risks, but not at the expense of things. The risk is an informed one. And again, with Fortuna Minor, the information you might get, how you may become informed, maybe by seeking out a wise person, a person with experience, a mentor, a family friend, a family member, a friend, or somebody that's a professional that can give you the advice that you need along your quest, so that the risks that you take are done in full clarity. You understand the pitfalls of them. You understand the positive side of it all. And so you can make the best decision possible, instead of just, having impulses guide that whole idea of I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to engage in this may be a risk, but it's one I'm willing to take. Well, should you? And so that's where higher awareness, or Kenas, comes in and says, well, maybe you need to go talk to somebody first and find out what they say about this whole risky thing you want to do. Maybe there's a way to approach this differently, to take a risk, but at least understand everything about that in full clarity, or as much clarity as you can get. And then this is where I decided to, when I came to the Nine of Wands here, I interpret this card differently. Well, I mean, any reader's going to interpret this card differently depending upon the cards that are surrounding it. But it occurred to me when I was talking about this card in the first time I did this, and that this could really benefit from understanding how we got to this place in this suit to begin with. If there is collaboration with others, it could be spirited. If we're talking about in the Fortuna Minor aspect of this, lots of ideas, lots of interaction here. It doesn't really look like anybody's listening to one another, but it also doesn't look like anybody's striking each other either. So nobody's getting hurt. It's just there's a lot of spirited stuff going on here. I should have started with the 4. If you choose to collaborate with others, let's do it this way. You then have a spirited conversation about it. Maybe this is reflecting ego, maybe it's not, but the idea with Kenas is you want to make sure whatever comes out of it is you understand the pros and cons of everything. That might be the risk side of it. From there, you go in concert or in harmony or unity or collaboration with other people with the 6. So there's 4, 5, 6. You may at some point need to stand your ground in the process with the 7. And at that point, you got a lot coming in on you. A lot of things happening at once with the 8. And then we come to the 9. The battle's over. And you look back at everything that you've gained along the way. All the little successes you've had, the progressive success along the way you've had, maybe with the 9 in this reading. And then you see at the 10, you gather it all up together, and you're going to take all that home with you, all your successes, all the opportunities that you've had that you've been successful with. The fruits of your labor, in other words, the fruits of that decision, that new path you're on. So it just felt to me like we were missing a whole bunch of information here. And I thought, well, let's just take a look at all those cards. I started thinking, well, okay, you've made a decision, with the 2, you've chosen that path. With a 3, you're there and you're waiting for your ship to come in. But it's a little more involved in all of that, because along the way, you have all this other stuff going on that you have to deal with when you're dealing with that new path, that new opportunity that's unfolding. But with the Ace of Pentacles, it's really suggesting that this is about material security and wealth and a path that's opening that's going to take you there. If you're able to keep your ego in check, if you're able to see things in full clarity, if you can understand both sides of the equation and the risks that you want to take, if you're willing to step outside your ego or your comfort zone and go talk to somebody who has a little more experience than you have with Fortuna Minor, you can do that. Or you can bring others into the group, say that was evidenced here by the 5, where you've got a bunch of people that's offering their ideas. But then see, once all that gels, then you come to the 6, right? where you're moving along in a positive way with others. And again, there may be challenges, as evidenced by the mountain right here on the Ace of Pentacles, where you may have to stand your ground a little bit in the 7. And in the 8, it may feel like all kinds of things are coming at you, but you're having to deal with. But at the same time, in the end, you're successful. You might be a little battle weary. You might have come through it a little bit there on this path to some additional wealth or material security, but you've done it. And then the unspoken part of it is when all is said and done. Let me find the 10 here. You're not really carrying a heavy burden. You're trusting the process, and that's what you've done. And now you're bringing home the fruits of that choice, all that decision you made to go down this new path into something better for you and your family. And that's generally how I see this. If you turn it on its side, I've done this before, it looks like a skewed version of Dagaz, which is the 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. And that talks about the end of one phase and the beginning of another. So now that you've done all this, maybe you're ready to start even a newer path after that. Or to continue on, at least this time, if you're continuing on the same one, at least you're doing it with the experience that you've gained, and you're doing it in full clarity. Full understanding of what you're doing and the choices that you're making. And if it does involve risk, you've done that. You've managed that risk in a way that protects what you've done. That's part of the Knight. He's very protective. But at the same time, you've taken the risks that make sense, and they've paid off in the end. And again, it may involve a collaboration with other people, or it may involve the advice you're getting from other people, and they're not actively involved in the day-to-day stuff, right? It's somebody you've sought out for advice. But I think I think showing the progression in the Suit of Wands of how we got here, because it just felt like, well, there was a missing card here, and in truth, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards that are missing. but I didn't want to. I don't have enough space on the desk here for that. But anyway, it occurred to me that it might be beneficial to understand the progression of that suit and how we get to where we are here. Especially when it all seems to involve opportunities for new material security or success. I mean, the big coin tells it all, really. And I think that it all aligns with Fortuna Minor in terms of what it takes along the way. And I think that the other cards here in the Suit of Wands that I showed you, I think it shows those steps, that progression along the way. So whereas we might start out with an earth element suit, we end up in the fire element. And I think that both Fortuna Minor and Kenaz are also reflective of that. So I think you see some synchronicity there. I think that this is ultimately the Ace of Pentacles just gets you started on that path of looking for new opportunities, or maybe the opportunity itself is the new path. But again, you have to think about how the steps that you take along the way, and how you're managing your risk, and whether or not you're willing to drop the ego enough to go and talk to other people and find out how they see it. You may end up simply learning all the things you don't want to do. I don't know. It could be that as well. But at least it's informing the decisions you're making, and helping you to manage the risk that you have. So in the final analysis, there might have been struggles along the way. Again, his head's bandaged. So there might have been some struggles along the way that really are forecasted by the Ace of Pentacles. But you've managed them. And at the end of the day, you've been successful. So think about this. If there's something that's opening up for you, maybe Maybe you've had a job offer from someone. Maybe you're wanting to start your own business. Maybe there's something within the job you currently have that's allowing you to maybe move into a different position, maybe a supervisory position of some kind, where you're going to need to make some decisions, and how you do that matters. How you manage your risk matters, and to the outcome of the whole experience for you. But it says if you do that, I think what the reading is saying is if you do that, and you let things settle out, you look at the overall numerology here of the 6 with Kenaz, the 1 from the Ace, and the 9 from the 9 of Wands. You're looking at 1 and 6 is 7. So again, that's observation. That's taking a step back, letting things settle out, and proceeding forward in some kind of a balance, understanding of what it is you want to do. So whereas you may see whether you see this numerology in terms of the 7 or the 1, the 1 today, the numerology for today, I think you're seeing a synchronicity here of going forward in a way that you understand what's happening, and if you don't, you find out, you get some advice. Even if it means going to a professional like an attorney or an accountant or a tax consultant or something, to where you're proceeding along a path that's not getting you hung up in any way, other than just the basic challenges of what you're trying to accomplish. In other words, you're not getting in the way of the whole experience. If this is a business you're opening, by not getting insurance or not getting enough insurance, business insurance, or not getting all of the business licenses or this or that you need, or not understanding what your tax liability, how you're going to organize. Are you going to organize as a corporation, an LLC, or are you a sole proprietorship? And then what does that look like in terms of paying your taxes to the state and to the federal government? That sort of thing, getting all your ducks in a row. And then you don't have to worry about any of that. You're right with essentially you're operating in a lawful way, all right, and you're not getting yourself into hot water later on where you've got to come back and fix something that's important, that could maybe result in fines and things like that. So you want to make sure that the ground floor, the Ace of Pentacles aspect of this, is all what needs to be there, and not forgetting anything that you need to do. So again, getting advice, business advice from somebody, is not a bad way to start. And along the way, with the day-to-day goings on of what you're doing, to achieve success with that opportunity, again, it may involve further asking for advice by of somebody else, or it may be bringing in other people to help you get to where you need to go. And so if it's a situation where you're moving into a supervisory position, that could be the people that work under you. That's who could be represented by that. So I think, again, whatever you do to get there, all the steps you take have to be done in full clarity. You have to express Kenaz, higher awareness, so that you don't let the ego drive the moment, but that you stand back and go, okay, wait a minute. Let me be sure I understand what's going on here. Let me be sure I understand what my responsibilities are, and let me make sure that the risks I want to take actually have the possibility of working out for me, and I think that's really what the reading is about today. If it doesn't resonate yet, in a few days it might, but if this is something that you're dealing with right now, I think that this is good advice that the cards are giving you, and I think that showing the suit, the rest of the suit, or almost the rest of the suit, along the way, I think is that shows you the steps that might be involved in whatever is going on here. it's kind of I've not ever done a reading like this way before. Usually it's like, well, I need another card, but in this case, I really think we benefit by looking at the whole suit, because the suit of wands really, if you wanted to bring it down to one thing, if you're talking about new opportunities, it takes you through that process, the entire process for you. The ace, where you're actually coming up with the idea. The 2, where you're making the decision of where you're going. The 3, waiting for the ship to come in. 4, the partnership that might be involved. The 5, with collaboration of ideas with other people. 6, the progress you make, the shared direction you take with others, if there are others involved. And on and on. It just really, whereas we might begin with something like this, I think that this really is a fire element reading. It's a wands reading. So think about it that way and see if it resonates for you, and see if it gets you to, if you're getting ahead of yourself, maybe it will maybe it's going to suggest to you that you need to step back and just take a moment to really look at what's going on, and making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and if your thinking is going in a direction that can actually get you where you need to go. And again, with Kenaz, it's just suggesting that you drop ego and you sort of live in higher awareness during this time, so that you're really sure, especially if you have people working for you and they're depending upon you for a paycheck. Is the risk that you're taking really worth it? Is it going to truly benefit the business, or is it putting too much at risk, right? There's too much at stake here to risk that much, that sort of thinking. But other than that, I think we did it. But truly, I've never gone and taken the suit and said, well, you did this and this and this. But I really think that that's what, when you get Fortuna Minor, you have to look at it that way. So that was fun. Anyway. Thanks for watching. Tonight's maiden moon. Tomorrow is Mother. It's the full moon, the full harvest super moon, actually. It's going to be in Aries. So lots of energy there. And again, it's especially with it being the additional influence of the supermoon, but understanding that since it's the harvest moon, it occurred to me, understanding what you've harvested over the last few months, or the last month, or what have you, whatever period you want to look at, I guess. But understanding what you've harvested. Did you reap what you sowed, or did something else happen? And if it did, and if things that were unexpected that you had to deal with, and maybe they weren't too pleasant, or maybe you realized you got in the way of yourself, or whatever it was, maybe use the tomorrow night's full moon to explore all that, and come to terms with all of it, and understand things in full clarity. Draw down the goddess's energy into your awareness, and raise your hands high in supplication to the moon. And whoever's living inside of it. So anyway. No, I don't buy that the moon just got into orbit on its own. I really don't. So anyway, thanks for watching. And click subscribe if you haven't. And come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.